Welcome into the Hannycast for Monday, April the 27th. I'm Charles Hanagriff along with former Tiger coach Dan Canevari. Thank you for making us a little part of your day. Dan, I'm going to open with a famous line from the American patriot Thomas Paine. You remember Thomas Paine's famous line? These are the times that try men's souls or try baseball coaches' souls. LSU swept over the weekend by Mississippi State, 10-8 on Friday, 9-8 on Saturday, 13-8 on Sunday. Dan, before I get into some of the numbers and we'll go through some stuff, this is unprecedented. We have not seen an LSU team lose this many games in a row because it's never happened before. They've never lost 9 in a row in the SEC, never been swept 3 straight conference series that were all 3 games. They're staring, potentially a losing record in the face overall for the first time since the early 80s, 1981. Just the whole thing. Whatever can go wrong has gone wrong for this LSU team. And I know we can say it as many times, you got to keep plugging along, but and they will, and they did. They didn't quit. But this has just got to be as brutal a stretch as we have ever seen.
It's very, very difficult. And it's like, talking with some people the other day, it's like there's things that I'm seeing to lose a game that I've never seen before. Like, it's like everything's real close to winning, and then all of a sudden something new comes out to lose a ball game. And it's not the kids are doing anything wrong. It's just bad luck. I mean, your best player, guys up for the Golden Spikes, has to go with a hamate. Okay, Jake Brown. Your number 2 pitcher goes down with an arm problem early in the SEC season, and now you go out to play Mississippi State, and you got to shut down your number 1 guy. So you lose your Friday night, your Saturday, and your best hitter, and nobody's having a great year like Curiel's having the year that he's supposed to have. And Milam is playing a great shortstop, and he's starting to hit now, but we expected that. So there's nobody coming out that is having a great year. So it's just not working, and not working the way it does. And sometimes you have years like that.
Yeah, I can't say that the players haven't done anything wrong, but I'll just tell you that the amount of fundamental errors has been really surprising to me. Base running errors, fielding errors, those things, and not the physical plays. The comebacker on Sunday to the mound, that could have been a play in so many other ways. It could have been a put out at first. If the ball gets through, it could have been a double play. If he fields it cleanly, it could have been a double play. Instead, it was none of those things. And it seems like we've had a situation that could have been really good for LSU, kind of good for LSU, or disastrous for LSU multiple weekends or multiple times a weekend. And it always seems to be the worst thing. And last year, Dan, everything went right for LSU. I mean, they're a great team, but they never got anybody hurt. They never ran into a team that was exceptionally hot. They played a lot of good teams, but they never ran into that that one guy that could come in and just shut you down. And then their opponents made some mistakes, especially at the College World Series. So they were really good, and they caught some breaks. This year's team, not only have they not caught any breaks, but they've made mistakes in the fundamentals of the game that you just don't expect a Jay Johnson team to make.
Well, there's a couple of things going on there. Speaking with Skip Bertman, by the way, Skip, congratulations to Skip, who had the field he grew up on and ran Parks and Recreation, the city of Miami Beach, at Flamingo Park, and played high school ball there, coached high school ball there. They named it after Skip. And, speaking with him, he got it was great. He saw all his old players from Miami Beach. Like you said, they're 70 now. And, but also a lot of Miami players were there. Got a lot of texts and emails, and the Miami people showed up. He got a chance to speak with, and go out with Dan Radakovich, the AD there, who worked for us at LSU. And,
and who is about to retire, right?
Right. Yeah. He went with him. He's about to retire. Dan will do something great. Like Skip says, he looks terrific. He's in great shape. It's just, Dan goes in and does what he does, and then he moves on to the next challenge. He's a guy that looks for challenges. But anyway, just talk with Skip. It's this game, baseball. It's a percentage game. So when you go out, and of course we've been there a lot, and Jay Johnson's been there a lot. When you win in Omaha, everything falls into place. You can almost feel it falling into place. And other people, it doesn't work like that. Like Mike Martin, God rest his soul, went out there all those years and just couldn't win. And what happened is we won 2 out of the last 3. We've been the program of the decade in the year 2000s. Paul won a national championship. It's like this year, the law of average caught up to us in a heavy way. Like you said, everything worked over the last 2 national championships. The Trey Morgan play at home plate, where if he doesn't make that play on the bunt, I mean, it's over. Like, they don't win. But he got the play. The ball bounces, ball's 3 inches fair. Baseball has a way of evening it out. And unfortunately, Jay and his team is paying for a lot of good fortune that's happened along the way. The second point I want to make is this happens a lot in where I'm at with youth league baseball, but you can see it in college baseball, high school baseball. Once things go bad, and you're dealing with kids, anywhere from 10 years old all the way up to 28 years old, they press to win instead of playing the game correctly and the way they know how to play with relaxation and everything else. When they're playing to win because they feel like they're supposed to win, so they put undue pressure on themselves, and they don't think the same. The pressure catches up to them, so they're trying to make plays that aren't there. They're trying to do more than what they can do, and it affects everybody. It kind of spreads throughout the whole team. And I think that's where they're at now. They really want to break the streak they got going, and the poor misfortune that they've been getting. And they're trying so hard that it's making the game more difficult for them.
We're brought to you by the Capital Area USSSA Baseball Affiliate, hosting events for all levels and skills, rec all-star divisions, AA, AAA, Major League, state, and national events, with new events lined up right now. For more information, contact Lane Petrie, 225-771-9095, 225-771-9095, and also by China, a downtown Hammond upscale Italian restaurant serving traditional dishes in contemporary fashion, inspired by the abundance of fresh local produce and the ways of old. China, creating a unique dining experience. Their goal is to use ingredients and delicious recipes to create an exceptional dining experience, while also providing a fresh, inclusive atmosphere to be enjoyed by everyone. China, in the heart of downtown Hammond. Dan, let's go to Friday night's game. And it was actually Friday afternoon's game because they moved it up to try to beat the weather. I don't know how many times this has happened to you and or Skip in your careers. I'm sure it's happened a few times where something goes wrong with the starting pitcher in warm-ups, stretching, whatever. Guy wakes up and he's sick, whatever it was with Case and Evans. But you find out with very little time to make a change that the guy you were planning on going with isn't going to be there. So kind of walk me through what that's like when you have to change starting pitchers on short notice.
It really throws everything off because, people don't realize you make a pitching plan for the whole weekend, before the weekend comes. And what happens there is now you lose, in Case and Evans's case, you're losing 6 to 7 innings of your pitching. Okay, that's number one. Forget about the quality of what he does, and he's your Friday night guy. You're losing 6 to 7 innings, and when your pitching staff is struggling, that's a real issue. That's number one. Number two is now you're going to stretch the bullpen because immediately you can't bump. Like, it's not like a first baseman goes down and you just bring in another guy. The guy that's set to pitch on Saturday has been built up and programmed on his routine to pitch on Saturday. So you can't just bump him up on Friday. Friday at 2:30, you can't just bump them up like you can at the other positions. So basically, it turns into the Johnny Holt staff, meaning you're going to go to your bullpen and you're going to put guys out there, and they're going to throw 2 or 3 innings tops. And they got to try to get through the game and see what they can do. But where it really affects you is in the next two games, because now your bullpen's thin, and now you got to rely on the starters in those games to try to get deeper in the game than even they normally would. So it kind of locks up the coach as to making moves when you have that happen that quick on a Friday.
Here was the other thing for Jay Johnson in the Friday game in regards to his pitching, and I would have done the same thing, except it didn't pan out at the end. LSU gets out to a 3-0 lead. They got out to a 3-0 lead in all three games in the first inning. Mississippi State got a couple back, but LSU eventually built that lead back to 7-3, Dan, through the fourth inning. Well, Johnson had decided to start Gavin Guidry, he's had a rough go of late, but he's still one of the more trusted arms out there. And he gets into the fourth inning, and he's got a 7-3 lead. Well, now he's going to go to his guys. And he went to Grant Fontenot, and he went to Devin Sheeran, and he went to Santiago Garcia, and then he put the game in the hands of Zach Cowan. That's the bullpen. I mean, that's your main guys.
Yeah, he went for the win.
You go for the win. Yeah, because without Evans's innings, and once he scratches, you don't figure you can bring him back at any other point in the weekend. Well, now you got to try to get one game. So he unloaded the clip, and I would have too. But when you do that and you miss, and look, they were right there. They get it into extra innings. They had an opportunity in the ninth to take a lead with the bases loaded. They didn't get the job done there. And so you get to the 11th, and you've used up all your main guys, and Mississippi State walks you off. Now you got a problem but I would have done the same thing, Dan. I'm not just saying that. What else is Jay Johnson supposed to do? His number one starter scratches, but he finds himself in the middle innings with a substantial lead, really. You got to try to win that game.
Oh, I'm 100%. He did the right thing. You got to try, especially when you lost your last two weekends. You got swept. I mean, you've got to go for the win when it's sitting there. Like you say, you're sitting on a 7-3 lead. You got to go for it. You can't play around. Don't forget about it. The old spawn and sane and pray for rain.
Yeah.
Meaning, and with the weather coming in. But I tell you what, he went for it. I thought Zach Cowan did a great job. Made a one pitch gets him. And it's the kind of season they're having. And that's what happens. It just kind of doesn't work like it's supposed to. But I thought they competed very well. I think we saw, a lot of people pitch. But I thought Cowan, did a good job in what he's doing. But he's not a closer. Ultimately, you would have liked if you had a closer, you would have saved Cowan to pitch on Saturday or Sunday. So Jay did what he had to do to win the game. I think he's 100% behind what he did. And it's just a shame they lost that game because they really deserved to win that ball game, I thought.
Well, I'm going to yes and no, okay? Let me just take the other side here for a second. Did they play hard? They scored 8 runs. That should be enough to win you a Friday night game in the league. And certainly they battled. The crowd was phenomenal there this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 13 to 15,000. So they're battling. The crowd's against them. They're on a losing streak. They lost the number one guy, and they're in there. But Dan, they walked 8. They had 2 hit batters. They had 2 wild pitches and an error. I mean, it's 13 free bases, and it was 44 free bases for the weekend. That's not winning baseball. You're a pitching coach. You know this. You can't give away that. You can't give away that much, and those numbers would get worse as the weekend goes on. We'll get to that later, but that's not winning baseball. You just cannot give away that much to the opposition without them getting a hit and expect to win a game.
Yeah, I mean, they gave away too much. In the end, with all those free bases, still got 10 hits.
Yeah, no, the offense was fine.
No, I mean, Mississippi State got 10 hits.
Right, yeah, 10 hits, yeah.
Yeah, so you add those free bases and then to 10 and then the extra bases, that's a pretty good offensive performance. But the reason LSU was even in the game is because they got 13 hits and Mississippi State made 3 errors, and LSU picked up only 4 walks, so we didn't get enough free bases to match up, and it came to bite us a little bit. But again, like you said, on a Friday night, 8 runs should be enough to win if you had your guy and he was on top. And but still, 7-3 lead. You gotta nail that down. You gotta nail it down.
The best part of Friday night's game, and this would also be a recurring theme throughout the weekend. Omar Cerna went 3 for 5 and drove in 2 runs. Mason Braun went 2 for 5 and drove in a run. And William Patrick went 2 for 6 and drove in a run. And between those guys, they scored 4 times. Those are all freshmen. Okay.
Throw in William Patrick.
I said William Patrick, two for 6. I should have said Zach Ruckert, who had a hit and scored a run. Jay's looking at some young kids, in some cases out of necessity because of injuries, and in some cases because, well, it's time to look at somebody else. The freshman bats did a very nice job this weekend, despite the 3 losses.
Yeah, I think Jay's made it very, very obvious the way he's playing this is he's seeing everybody play, and he's trying to figure out what he's going to do next year so he can know who he's got to recruit. They're probably hard recruiting every day and trying to get it right. Like he, made the statement, he's going to get this thing right. So it's tryout season. I mean, let's face it, Charlie, the season is pretty much in tough shape. We're going to make the SEC tournament because everybody does, but the chances at a postseason are not very strong. I know you're the expert. Are we mathematically eliminated yet?
No, you're not mathematically eliminated, but you would have to win probably a minimum of 7 of the last 9 SEC games, and that's just not very realistic at this point. So, no, not mathematically eliminated, but realistically, yeah.
The other way is you win the SEC tournament. That's which is unrealistic because correct. Too many games to win, not enough pitching to get through it. Because you got to play the top teams with your 3rd or 4th line pitching. It's just not capable.
I would think that the first game at the SEC tournament would I can't even imagine who they would use to pitch if Evans is not able to go the rest of the year. That would be a heck of a thing. And I'm going to get into some of the overall numbers towards the end here. Let me move on here because we got some other stuff to get to. Dependable storage, many amenities at all these locations. We're getting close to summertime. You got students that need to put their things in storage for the summer. Secure, climate-controlled storage units across Baton Rouge and New Orleans, locally owned. You need to get a new unit. Their rental truck is available for you. They have climate-controlled units, indoor and outdoor RV and boat parking. Baton Rouge, Houma, Jefferson, New Orleans, Prairieville, Slidell, Youngsville. Climate controlled means that you won't be dealing with the heat and humidity for, well, maybe it's furniture. Maybe it's important documents. Hey, I had a friend of mine tell me, he says, you know what? We were cleaning out my grandmother's house. We came upon some old baseball cards. I said, what kind of shape they in? He says, well, they were in an air-conditioned room, so they're in pretty good shape. I said, well, good luck with your treasure hunt there. But Dependable Storage has proudly served a wide area across Louisiana for a long time now. So go to dependablestorage.com for more information. Like Skip Bertman says, at Dependable Storage, we want your stuff. Let's move on to Saturday's game, where LSU would again get out to a 3-run lead. And Cano, this time they get all the way out to a 7-2 lead going into the 7th inning. And that's where Jay Johnson had to really start mixing and matching out of the bullpen, because William Schmidt gave him 4. State, I thought, did a really nice job of being patient, running up his pitch count to get him out of the game. They knew what kind of bullpen shape LSU was in. And so when they get into the 7th and they get into a little bit of a jam, Johnson made multiple pitching changes. He went from Ethan Plog to Connor Benj to Cooper Williams to try to get the lefty-righty situation right. And what can you say? It didn't work. Plog gave up 2 hits. Benj gave up a single and a walk. And then Cooper Williams came in and hung a curveball, and it went out of the park for the grand slam. And at that point, Mississippi State had all the momentum. They got 2 more in the 8th and ended up holding on. LSU did get a solo homer in the 9th. But that was another game that was sitting there. And I'm sorry, but I just have to wonder if Evans pitches on Friday night, they don't use up as much bullpen, and they've got more options on Saturday. So I kind of felt like the Friday game, because of how it played out, and of course, this was nearly 5 hours of baseball on Friday night. Jim Hawthorne would have been beside himself.
Jim would
My
have
my
resigned the
my
next
my
day.
my,
Yeah.
my good friend for the 5 hour game. I thought that played into Saturday where he didn't have as many options.
Charlie, let's just put a scenario where, like you said earlier, things worked the right way. Throw Evans on Friday night. He gives you 6 or 7, gives you a chance to win, giving up 3 runs tops. If he's the Evans that we know, okay. You got Cooper Moore going on Saturday. He gets you into the 6th or 7th inning with maybe 3 to 4 runs, and then you got Schmidt on Sunday, and then you got your pen. It's a whole different weekend, folks.
Yeah,
you can't blame that on anybody. That's just the way it worked out. And Jake Brown is in the 3 or 4 hole sitting there, hitting close to 400 with double-digit home runs. It's a whole different team right now. And it's just the way it is. And Jay's doing the best he can. The kids are working hard. Coaches are working hard. Guys are getting opportunities to play, and we're looking to try to salvage what we can of the rest of the season. So there's nothing you can blame it on except just misfortune, bad luck. And I'm with you. It changed the whole game on Saturday with Kaysen not being able to go on Friday. Now, this weekend coming up, knowing that he will or will not be available, they can get a plan that's probably a little better. You don't have to do it, think on your feet that quickly on a Friday night.
Another 13 free bases on Saturday, given up by them. And Dan, they're 9th in the league in hit by pitch. They're last in the league in wild pitches, and they're last in the league in fielding percentage. So, before, and they're second to last in the league in walks. But forget about the walks for a second. If you just control the wild pitches, the hit batters, and the errors, give me 3 out of the 4
pass
categories.
Balls, yeah. Pass balls,
and pass balls is up there. They're not last in the league, but it's not good either. The amount of free bases, it's just been really, really tough. We're brought to you by Marucci Sports. Step into the heart of the game with the Marucci Campus Tour. Hey, if you got youth league baseball teams this summer, you're looking for things to do with them between games, go check out where it all started from Marucci's, Jack Marucci's backyard with a lathe and a little woodshed, all the way to being the #1 bat for Major League Baseball. You can tour all of the working wood shops, paint booths, finishing rooms, museum-style exhibits. Plus, you get to shop in the gift shop with limited edition gear and discounts. You learn about all of the craftsmanship and the science behind the bats. Dan, I really enjoyed the tour when I took it. I learned some things about the industry that I didn't know. So it's really something different, something the kids will enjoy. Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. A reservation is required, but you can contact them for private or group tours at additional times. Go to maruccisports.com/campus-tour for more information. We get to the Sunday game, and LSU again gets out to a 3-0 lead. They saw the state starters really well, Dan. They got 9 runs in the first inning across the weekend, but this time you were going with Marcos Paz, who was starting his first SEC game. He got off to a good start in the first, but he gave up the 3-run homer in the second. And then he got you through the third, and then they kind of had to piece it together from there, including a couple of guys coming back for the second time in the weekend. And I thought that kind of got to Devin Sheeran a little bit. But here's what I liked about LSU. They fought back. They got the lead back after State had tied it. State came back and tied it again in the 5th. LSU went up again in the 6th. And then I just thought that they kind of ran out of bullpen at that point. And State got 8 runs in the last 3 innings to kind of pull away in this thing 13-8. But again, the free bases, 7 walks, 5 wild pitches, 3 hit batters, 3 errors. You had 18 free bases in this game. For the weekend, 44 free bases. State gave up 22. So if you consider 4 free bases as a run, you essentially gave up the difference in the series. You gave up 7 runs and change. You lost the series by 7 runs. You lost by 5 on Sunday. You lost by 1 on Saturday, and you lost by 2, 8 runs, excuse me. So that's the free bases to me are the difference in the series, and we talked about why that might not have been the case had the pitching not, you know, uh, been compromised the way that it was. But again, the freshman Cerna had 2 hits, including a homer. Aaron Beatty had a 3-run bomb in the first inning. So the
Yeah,
freshman
Braun had 4 hits and scored
Braun,
2 runs.
yeah. For the weekend, you had some really good stuff. Cerna went 8 for 14 for the weekend. He drove in 6 runs. Braun went 7 for 13 for the weekend. He scored 4 times and he drove in 2 runs. And Aaron Beatty went 3 for 12 with 2 homers and he drove in 6 runs and scored 4 times. Um, if next year those are your 3 middle of the order bats, well, you're starting to now you got to find some positions for all these guys, but if those 3 bats are in the middle of your lineup next year, that's something to build on.
Yeah, it's a lot to build on, and they're getting, like I said, they're getting Ruckert in there, they're getting Patrick in there, they're trying to get Pardon to play a little bit, Yaman to play, to start play some positions. So they're getting a good read on what the team looks like for next year. And like you said, when they decide who they really can count on, can they play SEC level baseball? When you see them in action in the SEC, you can see how they respond to the pressure, the visiting crowds, the quality pitching, and you can build your team from there. So I think the approach is going well. I mean, the bottom line is Curiel's going to play, Milam's going to play. They're going to keep playing those guys, and of course, the pitching, everybody's going to pitch, as it looks like, because good chance that Evans might be done for the year. If he's hurt now, we'll probably get some word here in the next couple of weeks.
I'm going to give you some numbers, and then before we finish up, I want to talk about something really positive. But realistically, can LSU make the tournament? No. They at this point they would have to win 7 of their last 9 SEC games. They got to go to Georgia. Georgia's probably the top offensive team in the league. They're in first place. To expect them to go over there and win that series, as shorthanded as they are, is not realistic. You got a South Carolina team coming in this weekend that has played a little bit better um, in the second part of the season, and then you got Florida, who's also very good and has got a dynamic Friday night guy. So that's not realistic. What are you shooting for to finish as strong as you can? They need to win at least 5 of the last 11 to make sure they do not finish with a losing record. LSU had a losing record overall since 1981. They've never been swept in 3 straight games like this, never lost 9 in a row in the league. So I'm hoping some good things happen for them this weekend. The numbers are just they're not in LSU's favor. There's no, I got a notebook full of them. There's none of them I can give you that paint a promising picture for the rest of the season. So get Cerna some more at bats, and Braun and Aaron Beatty and Patrick and Harden and Ruckert, and and do the best you can and fight till the end, and then they'll the let it fall as it is. But I can't sit here and lie to you and say, well, if they do this, it's just not realistic. If they rip off 9 in a row, and they go to 15 and 15 and they go to a regional, I'll be the first person to get up here and say I was wrong. But I don't think so. We're brought to you by everythinglsu.com. Get your Lane Kiffin gear right now. The Lane Train t-shirts, sweatshirts, decals, the LSU visor tees, all of your Sailor Mike black and white, gray, purple, gold polos are available there. Lots of t-shirts, your Lynn Rollins Pucker Up and Kiss That Baby Goodbye shirts, some leftover national championship shirts from last year, tons of caps. Listen, it's been a rough year for LSU on the diamond, the hardwood, and the gridiron. Next year, though, you're going to see them come back with a vengeance. I am as certain as I can be. So make sure you are well equipped and go to everythinglsu.com, shipping out of Baton Rouge. Here's a positive thing I want to talk about, Dan. This weekend, LSU plays South Carolina, and it is the reunion because it has been 30 years since
30 years since the Homer.
Warren Morris homered to walk it off against Miami in Omaha. I was there that day. You were in the dugout that day. it's going to be great to see and talk to some of the guys this weekend and relive that unforgettable moment. What do you give me your vantage point of that day and what was going on in that ninth inning?
That team was an incredibly bonded team and had a lot of belief system that, of course, Skip coached and taught and really had built it in. But, we were undefeated when Warren Morris was in the starting lineup that year. And the most amazing thing to me was the fact we got to Omaha, because people don't realize that Warren went down, and then Trey McClure was the second string second baseman. He went down the next day with a knee injury at UNO. Right after we found out Warren was done for the year, we played Casey Kuntz for the year.
Kuntz. Didn't Casey Kuntz hit a big home run against Alabama?
Yeah, and then he got drafted.
Yeah.
I mean, but to get to Omaha, with a guy that was a recruited walk-on, so to speak, was supposed to redshirt, and the next thing you know, you're playing to get us into Omaha. Right. And anyway, the thing is, I'm in the dugout with Skip, and of course, Wilson leads off and gets the play, slides into second base, which was scary as it was. But anyway, we're very close.
Close.
But when Lanier struck out on the greatest curveball I've ever seen thrown, because he was fighting, and Lanier was our captain, a warrior. Everybody loved it. And when he struck out, it was like, oh my gosh, what a pitch Morrison threw.
And he had such a good series too. Lanier had a phenomenal.
Oh, he's played great.
CWS,
and we felt like this was the moment, like Lanier's going to get us through. Yeah. But then, like, he did it, and then he looked, and Morris was there, and gives me the famous "Pick me up, Warren," which was the motto of our team. Like, he worked the Robbie Morrison so hard that he set it up for Morris. And Morris, of course, had the attitude, if I'm here, I'm going down swinging. I'm not going to take the pitch. I'm going to look. And Morrison didn't throw the same curveball he threw to Lanier, not to take anything away from Morris. And Morris put the good swing on it. And the wind was blowing in the right direction. It shortened the park. It was going towards right center, and the wind blew it to the right field line, which made it a little bit short of the fence, and it dropped in there. But I'll never forget, Skip grabs my, wait a minute, that's got a chance. That's a double. And we're thinking we're tying the score. And the next thing you know, oh my God, it's going out. And it went out. And then after that, I don't remember anything. All I know is that big hand grabbed my arm. And, guys will laugh about when you get the big hand to Skip on you. But what a moment. And, of course, we're in the third base dugout, so it's a great vantage point, and you can see the ball curving, and you're just like, it's just magical. And the place went crazy, and the kids were jumping up and down. What a great feeling, and just to enjoy that.
I'll tell you my impression. The first thing, when we pulled into the parking lot, and the game was at noon, it was bright sunshine, and the first thing I noticed was that the wind was blowing in. The wind hadn't blown in
15, 18 miles an hour. It was
and
big.
It had not blown in all week. And for those that never went to Rosenblatt Stadium was up on a bluff, and the wind played a factor in every game. I think of all the games I ever saw at Rosenblatt Stadium, Cano, I can count the number on one hand where the wind didn't play a pretty significant role. And when we saw it blowing in, I thought, wow, it's going to be really hard to get a ball out of here today. And if I had any doubts, Pat Burrell, the third baseman from Miami, who was the number one pick, it was a freshman that year and hit almost 500. And 2 years later would be the number one pick in the Major League Baseball draft, hit a ball with the bases loaded about as hard as you can hit a baseball. And he crushed this thing to straightaway center field. And if he had hit that ball on any other day of that College World Series, it would have landed at the zoo.
Yeah, it was left center. It was I-80. It was
right.
I-80.
It would not have 450 feet if it was an inch. And the ball hung up, and Mike Kerner caught it on the track, and Burrell was going down the first baseline airplane, and he thought he had it. And like I said, any other day he would have had it. And I believe it was Nate Dunn that also crushed a ball that would have been out that got hung up in the wind, LSU's third baseman. I remember that. I remember Chad Cooley's ball that bounced out of his glove in left field. that Mike Bianco was LSU's third base coach. Bio's down there. He's screaming at the umpire. They're handing out the rule in the press box. He's got to take it out of his glove. This is not. I remember Eddie Furness, and he confirmed this for me many years later, that he played that game with a hairline fracture of his leg. And if you watch Eddie was such a great hitter that he couldn't really shift his weight because he couldn't move that leg. And there was a ball he hit that would have ordinarily been a double, but he could only leg out a single. And he confirmed to me many years later. I said, "You playing with a broken leg?" He said, "Well, I had a hairline fracture in my leg." Dan, the ending is what everybody remembers, and they should. But that was a fantastic ball game. I mean, if it doesn't end the way it does, it was still a fantastic national championship baseball game.
Well, I got to tell you this, Skip and I talk about this a lot. Remember now, we're both Miami guys. And
right, yeah.
We're playing against Miami, so I mean, our hearts are in both dugouts, so to speak. But of course, we're looking.
And Turtle Thomas was on the Miami staff that year, who would spend a lot of time at LSU. Yeah.
Hey, I tell people, the biggest thing is the night before Turtle and I were Miami played, and then you had to flip for the home team. So Skip, I was scouting the game. Skip, so you just go take the flip. So I won the game because I called heads.
Well,
if I didn't call it, you never have more. So I played a part in it, small part. But no, I'm just joking. It's the truth though. But here's the thing about it: it was a heavyweight fight.
Yeah,
meaning two heavyweights going at it. Somebody gets a blow. They knock the guy down. He gets up off the mat. He comes back. He delivers a blow. He goes on the mat. That game went back and forth. And what a great competitive game. I mean, it was just fun to be in, and we were lucky to end it on our side. And I felt bad for Miami for a split second, and that was about it.
Well, we could do a whole podcast just on that game, and maybe we should one day. Kevin Shipp having to start, the game after being a reliever all week. J.D. Arteaga, the starting pitcher for Miami, later their manager. Alex Cora at shortstop for Miami, major league manager. Well, at least he was until Saturday. The amount of players that played in the big league. Jason Williams.
Mankiewicz at first base.
Yeah. Marcinzik. Jason Williams, who had played more games for LSU than anybody at that point. I go on and on. Patrick Coogan was in relief, got the win in that game, and started the national championship game the following year. Came a couple outs away from being a back-to-back winning pitcher. I
think it was 1 out away from being the back. 1 out away.
Was it 1 out? Yeah.
1 out.
Anyway, it'll be fun to reminisce about that team in that week, that College World Series this weekend for the reunion. 30 years for Warren Morris at the box as LSU takes on South Carolina. For Dan Canevari, I'm Charles Hanagriff. This has been the Hannycast.